No! No, what is this? No! The purple patch had almost completely covered my phone. So, yeah, rest in peace. This is my third phone. And it's only 1 year old, too. This is phone cancer, alright? I don't know if any of you had experienced something like this before, but this sucks. Okay. Anyway, hey guys, what's up? It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite albums. And before I start having my finals, finals exam, I would like to review one more classic album, and that would be Aphex Twin with selected ambient works 85 to 92. So Aphex Twin is Richard D. James from UK, and he is one of the most influential electronic artists and producers of the underground music for quite some time now, and he had been incredibly successful in the 90s. And he had worked on a few very popular electronic pieces, like Window Licker, which is a really abstract and cognitive and cerebral piece of IDM thing. And the music video for Window Licker is incredibly creepy, where his face appears on every single person while this hot girl California party thing is happening. It's like his face is infiltrating a regular day in California. And then we also have the Richard D. James album, which is really creepy, and also the I Care Because You Do, which is this super weird, experimental, and scary album. So yeah, as far as abstract music goes, we have Sun, we have Radiohead, we have Tool, and then we have Aphex Twin. And his music is also kind of scary as well, because back in the days in the 90s, in the early 90s, usually, music wouldn't be as stern and as abstract, but yet also calculated as this. So, Aphex Twin was really ahead of his time. So anyway, this album is basically the debut album of Aphex Twin, and it dabbles into different genres like techno, ambient techno, acid techno, also IDM, which is a really vague term for a genre of music. But I guess I still understand why the term IDM exists. Anyway, this album is a very versatile electronic album. But even though it's versatile, pretty much all of the tracks here feature these hypnotic, abstract sounds layered with these calculated, stern, and measured and cutting-edge beats, and they all sound really weird, abstract, but also transcendent, and also otherworldly. Also, a lot of the tracks on this album are also really spacey and moody, so they are not really dance bangers. If you're going into this album, you shouldn't expect dance music, more like music that provides a very strange experience. Even though, admittedly, some of the tracks here are pretty danceable and pretty sticky. So the album starts off amazingly and brilliantly with Xtal, which is also pronounced crystal, because you have the word Xmas, which is the short form of Christmas. So X becomes Chris and Xtal becomes crystal. So it's crystal. Get it? That's I don't know if this is real or not, but if this is real, if the title of this track is supposed to be pronounced crystal, it's brilliant. Anyway, this is a very moody, spacey, serene, ethereal, tranquil opening, which is also super warm and welcoming as well. And it has this fainting, pulsating beat, and it is layered underneath some super blurry and also transcendent and sunny and bright sort of synths mixture, and also embedded with some new age female vocals just singing in the back very, very faintly. And it just creates this super surreal atmosphere. It's like we had just been transported to this dimension where it's super foggy, super dusty, but also super sunny, and there aren't many people around us. We're kind of alone, but we do not feel really alone because we're kind of one with the vibe of the world, basically. So yes, it's a really hard to describe feeling, and this track also gives off this very comfortable youth vibe, which I really love, and it's just a really amazing, a really stellar opening for the album. I remember, for my Europe documentary, I've been to Europe, and I made this 13-hour long documentary documenting what happened every single day in the trip. And one day I was in Oslo, Norway, and it was nighttime, and Oslo just gives off this super weird vibe, like a vibe that I've never felt before. And when I was editing that part in the documentary, I really didn't know what music to go with it. And after a while of thinking, I was like, yeah, this track, Aphex Twin, Crystal, or Xtal. I learned that it was Crystal earlier on today. And then we have the second track, The, which has this driving and compelling ping-pong beat that's constantly bouncing off of each other, and it's being distorted and compressed a little bit, so it sounds kind of muddy. And then we also get this faint rubbery bass line sort of slithering underneath all this. And aside from that, we also get some field recordings of, I believe, train station, or maybe an airport. Probably an airport. But yes, it's just a really spacey and moody track that puts you in this weird headspace, as if everything around you is in slow motion and your mind just wanders off into like the quantum realm or something. And this track is over 9 minutes long, so it's a really cognitive and meditative experience. Then we have the third track, Pulsewidth, which has this bubbly, blissful keyboards, and we also get some clipping beats underneath that's faintly playing, and we also get a bass line underneath that's really murky and thick, and it's also pretty faint, and it's slithering underneath. And as the track progresses, the beat goes harder and harder, and the instrumentals go softer and softer, so we get an emphasis on the drums, and then we get introduced a drum machine line which keeps on repeating in loops, and again, it just puts you into this really weird headspace. And similarly, on the fourth track, we have Ageispolis, Ageispolis. I don't know, man. All the tracks here have weird names. Anyway, on this track, we get some reverbed bleeps and bloops in the beginning, which sort of fades into this super smooth and cinematic synths that sort of sounds like we're being transported to this new world, this new fictional world where everything seems so perfect and fine and calculated, where everything's so sunny and all the buildings beside you are just 5-story tall white cuboids with square windows, and all the roads are perfectly straight with trees in the middle. Yeah, it's like we're being transported to this very perfect city that the authorities had built us, and we are told to believe that we are safe, but indeed we are actually kind of safe. Yeah, it's just so hazy. It's just so calm and oddly calm. Like, I don't know why am I feeling so calm, but I'm feeling calm. And and then we have the track I, which is a little bit over a minute long, and it's this super short synth interlude that sounds really lovely, really soft, gorgeous, and sunny. Just imagine if you are in the default screensaver on a Windows XP computer. You get the idea. And then we have the track Green Calx, Green Calx, and it's a banger. It's a super snappy, dry, rough, abrasive, wild, freaky banger, and the bass line is super acidic, super sour and watery as well. We got some old school drum grooves paired with some eerie synth leads, making this a crazy whack party of sounds, and it gets more and more weird and abstract and abrasive as the track moves on. And we also get introduced this sprawling distorted hi-hats, which just makes it even crazier and wackier, and it just gives you a special vibe, a special mood. We have the track Helios Fan, which has some propulsive beats which are constantly just springing above the ground, and then we get some synth lines which are super stern and also confident and promising. It's like an old and kind man. The synths I'm trying to describe. Yeah, it's a really smooth track. Aphex Twin always pairs these smooth melodies and with synths and keyboards against all these sprawling and eccentric beats, and it always creates this weird mood. And we also have We Are the Music Makers, which sounds like a big FU, a big middle finger to the casual music listeners of the early 90s, because nobody would listen to, nobody with a mainstream taste would listen to Aphex Twin, especially in the early 90s, and Aphex Twin was like, we are the music makers, we make the music, you have to accept it. Screw you. The bass and the rhythms on this track are super rigid and calculated, while we get some sneaky bass lines underneath, and also some loud, crunchy drum beats, which I think are pretty fantastic. Also, there are a lot of Gene Wilder samples laid across this track, and it just makes this track even, I guess, wittier and almost funnier, almost in a way, if you think about the artistic intent of creating and producing this track. And we also have Scottkey 7th Path, which is easily the most abstract track off of the entire LP. It's really eerie and ominous, and it's kind of in a way where if you release a track like this nowadays, it would definitely end up as a generic trap banger. But in the 90s, obviously, it would sound pretty weird and ominous and eerie. It's like something is off. And we also get some constantly banging beat that's constantly clashing against the wall, and also some glitchy bleeps and bloops. And then we have the last four tracks, which are Ptolemy, Headphilum, Delphium, and Actium. And the track Ptolemy is actually a very danceable tune with some epic house music dance grooves, and it's like it has this super rigid but also wild hip-hop beat from the 80s, paired with some super smooth ambient-ish cinematic synths that also complements some clicky blinky keyboard splashes, as well as this super weird and goofy layered synths, which are really spongy and bright. It's like a Microsoft Windows screensaver or something. And then we also have a Headphilum, which is one of the more head-scratching tracks on the LP, because it has some sour synths cascading off of one another, paired with some driving distorted kick drums, which are really weird. And then we also get some keys which are super distorted and compressed, and as the track moves on, it gets more and more abrasive, noisy, drony, and muddy. It's like we're being sent to the wrong dimension and it's an error and we're supposed to be sent somewhere else. So it's really weird. And the second last track is Delphium, which is essentially a futuristic and cutting-edge dance funk tune with some steady synths and some poppy beats. And we also get some keyboards that are super sneaky and snaky, and also some blinking keys, which reminds me a lot of Nicholas Jar's work. And the last track is simply fantastic. It's Actium, and it has this constantly stomping beat plus some ringing dinging sound effects that are sort of sprinkled on top of the beat. And we also get some keys which are super ominous. They feel kind of cute but also kind of ominous and eerie, and the song overall sounds like solving a puzzle very slowly and very rationally and logically. And it's just a really weird way to end off the album. It almost sounds like a to be continued track where it's sort of like to be continued, you know, there will be a next chapter. So yeah, overall the album is really strange, but at the same time very versatile and pretty eccentric. Listening to this album from the first track to the last track certainly provides you this very cognitive and cerebral experience. It's like you're constantly being sent to these different dimensions with different vibes and tastes and textures, but yet on every single track we get a similar very moody and spacey instrumentals paired with these eccentric beats, and it just makes Aphex Twin's music even more cutting edge and futuristic. And certainly this album is very influential, very impactful, and it's a classic album and you know it. So yes, I really love this album. It grows on you. And my favorite track here is Xtal or Crystal, and my least favorite is probably Scottkey 7th Path, and I'm giving Aphex Twin's selected ambient works 85 to 92 a strong 9 out of 10. So, have you listened to this album from 1 to 10? How much did you rate it? Like if you like it, and subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching.